Hello, my name is Elliot, and today I'm going to be taking you through crow pose or frog stand as they may be called. In order to do this, you're going to need a cushion. You're also going to need either a book or some blocks, and these will be useful throughout the practice. So, today I'm going to be walking you through some fundamentals when it comes to wrist warm-ups and how to do those, and then we're going to be taking you through some strength exercises. If you're struggling with your crow pose just because you haven't got adequate strength for it, these are some really good beginner exercises that you can start on, and I'm going to take you through fear of falling or hitting your head on the floor, and then how you slowly build up to your crow pose, and maybe a couple of bits and pieces of how you can progress once you've got your crow pose. So, let's get started. We're going to start with doing some wrist warm-ups, and I want you to start by taking your hands facing outwards, and we're just going to make some circles around them. We're going to do 10 clockwise and 10 anti-clockwise as we do this. And as we do this, I really want you to try and focus on shifting the weight in the first knuckle of the hand. So just around here on the hand is where you want to try and focus a lot of the weight rather than the fingers. As we go and build up to crow pose, but also more advanced poses like a handstand, having good strength through the palms and focusing on controlling the handstand through our palms rather than our fingers is going to be really crucial for you being able to build up balance as you progress to more advanced poses. And so this is what we're going to try and focus on now. So you build up a good foundation. We're now going to go anti-clockwise for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, you can bring the hands in if you want, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. We're going to do a similar kind of exercise, but with quite a bit more strength in our wrists. So we're going to be kneeling down, and then I want you to lift up the wrists. So you're trying to push weight over, so lean your shoulders over your hands, and then we're going to lift up the hands. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. If that's the first time you're doing it, it might be quite challenging, but the more you're leaned back, the easier it's going to be. If you're feeling like it's too easy, then you're going to lean further forward. And you want to try and keep your fingers on the floor the whole time. Next, we're going to do some counter stretches. So we're going to go back. And I want you to try and push the bicep forward as you're doing this and really straighten out the arms. We're just going to lean back and forth 10 times. But equally, if you're feeling like a particular bit of tightness in one area, it's absolutely fine for you to stay into it and try and breathe into it as you're doing so. So I'm going to do 6 more of these. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Nice. So, just going to do a quick counter stretch between it. So placing the backs of your hands on the floor. You might not feel like you get very far, but it's just to counter all these extensions we've just done. And then as a final warm-up to warm up the extensors are in the palm of the hand. You're really going to need these as you're trying to learn your balance. So we're going to just, you can sit down for this, but if you want to work on your mobility, then I'd recommend coming to a Malasana, but that's not what the class is focused on. And so we're going to do an exercise called open and open wider. So we're going to have the hands open as they are, and then we're going to open wider, really trying to stretch through the hand and open the fingers as wide as possible. And we're going to do this 50 times. 50, 40, 20, 40, 30, 20, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Gosh, don't know about you, but every time I do those exercises, I think they're going to be really easy, but when you get to the last like 20 or so, and that's when they start to get a bit more challenging, but that's where the growth happens ultimately. So I'm going to take you through just some exercises that you can do in order to help you build up your strength. If you're struggling with crow pose and can't feel like you're holding yourself and supporting yourself well enough, I'm going to take you through some things that you can do in order to develop that kind of strength. First one I'm going to talk about is cat-cow, and the reason why this is important is you're just trying to engage through your shoulders and understand more body awareness. And then I'm going to take you through a headstand push-up, which is going to really benefit you as you're working on your front shoulder position. So I want you to come through into this tabletop position. You can have your feet tucked in or not, but it's up to you really. And we're going to protract through the shoulders. So this means that you're going to push through the shoulders and really engage into the upper back. You should feel like you can't push up anymore, and that your upper back is almost being stretched as you pull your shoulder blades out. And as you do this, I want you to also make sure that you're rounding into the lower back, not just the upper back. So you don't want to be like this, where your bum's raised. You want to push your pelvis forward. And then we're going to do the opposite. So we're going to exhale and round the whole back, opening out the chest. And then inhale. And then exhale. Really trying to open through the chest as you do it. You feel like the whole front side body is being stretched. We're going to do this for 8 times. So 8, 7, 6, 5. Remember to really push on each side. You should feel like you're in a really good stretch. 4, 3, 2, and 1. There we go. Nice. So as I said, next exercise we're going to do, we're going to go straight onto it, is headstand push-ups. These are going to start on your knees. There's an option to progress onto doing it fully, but I want you to make sure that the form's right. Ultimately, as you're going handstands and crow pose, you really want to make sure that your fundamentals are good, because otherwise you're going to just have to go back to the previous exercise, or it's going to take you absolutely ages to learn the exercise and you're not going to learn it correctly. And that's when you get frustrated, as things are going to take way longer to do over the long term. So again, we're going to come into this position. This tabletop position where you're rounding through your back is really going to be crucial as you're learning all your handstand and crow pose. And what I want you to do is keeping the elbows tucked in. And I want you to have like a C-shaping motion as you bring the top of the forehead, so just right like where your hairline is really, or the very top of your head, to touch the floor. So what I want you to try and avoid is having the bum lifted as you're doing this. It's only going to lead to bad form and you're not going to target the right muscles. And then also I want you to make sure that you're not doing just a regular push-up. The reason for this is it's just going to target distant muscles that aren't quite as useful as you're learning your crow pose. So you don't want to be doing this. You also don't want to be doing this as you're going through and doing the exercise. So instead you can keep rounded, and we'll do that for about, let's say, 6 reps. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Now, if you want to make that slightly harder, you can come off your knees. This is going to eventually progress to things like pike push-ups, but we're not going to go into those hugely today. They will help, but ultimately you can add them in your own time. But you should be able to do crow if you can do pike push-ups. So we're just going to lift the knees just slightly. So we're going to start in this tabletop, lifting the knees. And holding here, to be honest, is quite a good exercise regardless. And then we're going to come down and push back up, staying in this kind of bent knee position. And we're going to do that 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Oh, blimey. It's amazing how just taking your knees off is going to make that pose a hell of a lot harder. But then you've got some options to be able to try and work through. The next thing we're going to go through is around fear of falling. A lot of my students talk about how they're worried about hitting their head as they're laying crow pose or going on to headstand or even handstand. And so really you've just got to tackle that fear and see what the worst is going to happen. That's the main way that you're going to get over this kind of fear of falling. To do this, I recommend getting a big pillow or cushion or something like that that you can use. So we're going to now practice a crow pose. And I'm just going to go through some fundamentals before we quite get into it of how you're going to do it. Now, the ideal way to do it is going to have your knees on your elbows. The reason for this is it's a lot easier to balance in the long term, and also as you want to go into more advanced poses, it's going to be a hell of a lot easier to work on those. But if you're really struggling and this is uncomfortable, it's a kind of thing that's going to build up over time and get easier. So I'd recommend trying at some points with your knees on your elbows, but also trying it with your knees on the top of on your triceps. It just allows the hips to get a bit higher and make it a little bit easier for you to work through. I'm going to start with my knees on my elbows and probably just vary it throughout my demonstrations, but just so you know how you should be doing it. You want your hands to be about shoulder width apart, fingers spread out, slightly clawing to the ground rather than being flat, and then you're going to lean forward, taking one foot off the ground, and then trying to switch between the other, and you're going to have the cushion there so that you can fall onto it. And we're going to in a moment just fall onto it on purpose. So I'm going to switch, and all of a sudden I leave my bounce, and it's okay because I've fallen down. And if you can, try and really push through the fingers, try and push yourself back. I'm just going to take one foot off and swap. And here, first you want to start by just falling onto the cushion itself, just so you're really comfortable. But then over time, it'll just be there for comfort, so that you know nothing's going to happen. Now, we'll do a couple more of those, and then we're going to try with a block and slowly progress it down in terms of what's actually needed. So, going to lean forward, taking one foot off, then the other, and oh no, I crashed. And then you're going to push back, maybe put the foot on the floor, come down. And it's not going to be easy. At first you might do it and you're only going to be able to hold for a couple of seconds. But give yourself a moment's rest, and I tell you what, let's aim for 10 reps or so between us. And you might need to pause the video and have a rest between each one, but trying to build up to that 8 to 10 rep range is really going to benefit you as you do this. So we're going to start leaning forward and take both feet off if possible. If you can't, that's absolutely fine. And just lean down, pushing back off, and you're really trying to push through the palms of your hands and your fingers. Leaning down, pushing back to the floor. Do this 6 more times. Six, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. There we go. Nice job. Once you've been able to do that and you're comfortable holding it with your head lightly on the pillow or the cushion, we're going to progress to using a block or 2 blocks. Equally, a large book is going to do just as good a job at this. So, having the blocks there, we're going to do kind of a similar exercise, but this time we're going to try and rest in our crow pose and hold it for, let's aim for 10-15 seconds or so and see how we get on. And you might not do it for that long, but slowly trying to build up. With your frog stand or your crow pose, you want to eventually work up to about 30 seconds. Once you get past 30 seconds, you're just holding it for time and endurance. And while it's nice, you can probably move on to the next pose by that point. So this is why I'm going to focus on that kind of length of time. So with the blocks, it's going to be just that little bit harder versus having the cushion there in order to help support you. So again, hands spread wide apart, fingers spread out, and you want to claw in with your fingers. I'm just going to lean forward, taking one foot off, and then the other, if possible. You just got your head rested there on the block. And I would hold this, let's hold it for 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. As you're doing that, try not to have too much weight stuck on your head. Try and have more and more over time of the weight in your hands, and overall it's going to bounce a lot easier. But at the start you might have much more on, and then slowly you can push back through your fingers and have less and less. Now, let's say you've done that, you're comfortable with it, and you want to progress to make it harder for you, and slowly start doing it without the block. So, in order to do this, I'm still going to recommend having the block just to start with, and this is really going to teach you having good form as you do it. And similarly, you want to rest the top of your head onto the block, but this time we're going to eventually remove it. If you can, get someone else to help you there to remove it, and just so you're more comfortable. So I'm going to this time just show you what it's like with my knees on my triceps rather than on my elbows, but as I said, you can try either method. So you want to come up and rounding forward and to land the head on the block. And get comfortable with it, try and push off just slightly such that your head is just off the block. You might come down, and you're going to push and really push through the shoulders, and then come down, push through the shoulders. And I want you to try that and work towards being able to do that 6 or 7 times. And if you can get a few seconds hold between, that's going to be absolutely fantastic. Really, I'd recommend having about 3 or 4 seconds of hold between before you're going to work on to the next exercise. We'll just go through that one more time. Now you're going to have your head on there. If you can get someone to take it away from you, that would be great, just so they can pull it away once you've found the right position. And I've found in my students that's really helped them. So if you don't have anyone, you're going to push it off and head back on. Push it off, back on, push it off, back on. Nice one. Okay, so now we've got that, we're going to actually go on to the crow pose itself and see how you get on. Hopefully you should by now be quite familiar with the pose, not too scared of falling on the floor, and also from the push-ups built up some good basic strength that you're going to be able to utilize for these. So if we go on to it, same form cues that I taught before, and you're going to want to lean forward. You're still doing this kind of C-shaping motion we learned in the push-ups. Just this time you haven't got the box or the cushion to rely on, and we're going to lean forward and just take one leg off and just tap very gently the foot off the floor. You might end up frustrating on your head on the floor. That's okay, because we've learnt how not to be scared of doing it. And you might put your feet back on And as I said earlier, I want you to work towards, to begin with 15 seconds, and then once you've got 15, then you're going to work towards 30. And that doesn't matter if to start with it's going to be built up with 3 or 4 seconds. They're just added up together in order to get the time. But really, I want you to start with 3 sets of that, whether it's working towards 15 seconds or whether it's working towards 30 seconds, depending on what level you're at. So they're going to break up, so it might be 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds, just adding those up until you get to the magic 15, and you're going to try and repeat that three times during your workout. And once you've got that, then we're going to actually just practice doing our crow. And so if you want to follow along with me, then I'll count you down so you can see if you can do it for long enough. I can't guarantee I'm going to do perfect accounting in terms of my timing, but let's see and see if you can do it now. So you ready? Let's go. You're going to hold for 30, 29, 28, 27, 26, 25, 24, 23, 22, 21, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, well done if you stop at 15, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Nice job, guys. Well done. So they're all the kind of progressions that I'm going to recommend for you to be able to learn your crow pose. Ultimately, it's going to be a real strong building block that you're going to be able to build on in terms of learning your handstand, and they're going to help both build some strength through the wrists and the shoulders, and it's also going to be help you to learn to balance. As you move around through your crow pose, then it's going to really benefit you. Thanks very much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe.